Now, as we move on to Troy Hashimoto, I want to first start by kind of laying out our overall philosophy of these interviews. First of all, I think it's very important that we hear about all of the contested candidate sections that we have, and really hear from all of the different candidates, so we get to understand their position and where they're coming from, just as we just did with Kaapuni. Now, we sent out a lot of invitations to Troy over a 3-week period. I personally had sent Troy 4 emails, 3 voicemails, 2 texts, and I even went to his house and put a letter on his door. We tried really our best to try to engage Troy, but this is, again, part of the situation that we're dealing with when we deal with politicians who may not want to answer questions from the community. And again, what it does, though, it exposes position. And yet that's our job, to expose positions and where people are coming from. So among our panel, we will have a discussion then of Troy's background, his voting records, and his kind of his tendencies and his support or non-support of the areas that he represents. So, Tommy, you talked a little bit about Troy at the before, and if you could expand on that a little bit as a start, and then we can all chime in. We have a lot of information about Troy's voting records, and then we can make comments, all of us, on his past decisions and records that he has. Okay, Tommy?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Look, Troy's a nice guy, right? I've worked with him more through a variety of establishment candidates over the years than I have with him since he's been elected. He had been aides for different candidates and elected officials for many years. And even while doing that, he was doing work for other candidates, other elected officials at the time. So I was getting emails from Troy, from various candidates for many, many years. I knew him by name many years before I knew him by face. And I always kind of could tell that this name was going to pop up and do something else. And, watching kind of the laser execution, waiting for Suki's seat to get disrupted, even the way Suki got tossed out and the power struggle towards the end, it was this is really big boy Hawaii politics, and Troy stepped in right off from the newcomer into one of the strongest seats in the state, and has quite a bit of support. So what's most appalling to me is just that he's not here. How comfortable must you feel as a first-term rep to be so confident that you can turn down one of the larger efforts to let people know who the candidates are? So I'm surprised, honestly. I really thought Troy would participate. I'm a bit disappointed. He worked with Axel and I a couple years ago, and we had a nice interview. But I think that the interviews that we're doing here today are more, they're a lot more direct questions, and it's a hotter oven, and I believe he knew that. And it's just I really wish he would have been able to, just face a panel that wants to question him. This is how democracy works. I just feel like he's taking a side door out, and in many ways out of democracy. In many ways, like he took a side door in. So I'm disappointed. Just that he's not here.
Great, thank you. And we'll do the same thing. For those of you who would like to comment, raise your hand and we'll stack the names. I just wanted to start off by just making a few comments. First of all, he was appointed by EGAY, and as you said, it was kind of a side door how he got in, and it wasn't representation of of our democracy as such by people electing him. And then he, the second term that he started after he ended the first one, basically, again, there wasn't anyone really running against him. And I think this time there is opposition, as we've just seen with Kaapuni. And hopefully we can start to make some very clear decisions. One things that I look at is his voting records. And I'd just like to look at one piece that I think is very important about the Water Rights Bill. That's HB 1326, where he voted yes in twice in January and once in February of 2019. And really, it has a huge impact in terms of continuing, I guess you could call maybe the corrupt system that we have in terms of water rights and water ownership and some of the things that have been going on. And this was he voted for the extension of these same types of water issues then to continue. And we're talking about the lifeblood of the island. And I think one of the main things that affects development and also the types of food that we're able to produce. So to keep on voting to give that over to corporations, large corporations, especially when we're talking about Mai Pono, which is a Canadian company, corporation, then again, it raises great concern into who our representation is around these issues. And are they really supporting the INA and the people, or big money interest, or kind of the big democratic corporate machine that is presently running most of the state? So these are things that I have great concern about. And I was, again, Tommy, I'm also very disappointed that Troy has not shown up for these interviews. But again, I think that we have to, as a group here, kind of disclose his record and maybe why he's not showing up and why he's not being open to receive these types of questions and participate in democracy. So how about someone else here? You all have a list of some of his voting that I gave you, and who else would like to? Sean?
Well, one of the things I'd like to say is, with politics, the first thing you learn, Troy's being told by the establishment not to show up here. If he came onto this show, he would end up with pejorative challenges because the system works in lockstep. It's more of it's more like a dictatorship, quite candidly. The way that my roots as a Democrat go way back from my dad to my grandparents and union stuff and all kinds of crazy things along the way. And I know that the unions have their way to lock things in and move towards a particular issue. But when it's being done on an entire state level to ensure that an insular number of people are kept in power, the corporations and the large families and the institutions are kept together as a contiguous group, that's where the challenges come in. We're here to break that. And quite candidly, in some ways, I don't blame Troy. I don't blame people that are new or coming into this. I blame the system itself. It's an ancient system that goes back pre-Roman, and we're here. Democracy is about breaking that system. That we as we have an extraordinary power in our vote, in our ability to be a citizen. That does go back to the Roman time. So people here do not understand our franchise. Troy is not showing up at this because he's being told not to. So we have to understand that part of the whole issue too. And we have to name it. We have to name the fact that these folks won't show up because they're being told not to show up. And if anybody does, it's because they're desperate or there's some other thing going on, but that's the way the system is. It's an insular system. So Troy trained to be part of the system, it seems, and that's fine. It's his part of it. So this is one of the reasons that systems-based democracy is a disruptor. It's not a smooth system. It's a disruptive system. We're here for the greater good, which gives us a higher ethical point of working. The challenge with this type of system is if you're there as a disruptive element and you just simply want to disrupt for your own reasons, then that's a whole other challenge. So it's sad that Troy's not here. This definitely was his chance to be able to step forward. But quite candidly, I didn't think he was going to because of the way the system here works. And somewhere along the way, I'd like for us to be able to find a way to actually talk directly to that system. That's all I really have to say. I mean, Troy's voting record is what he was told to vote for. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. And but again, there's no blame on him as a person. It's simply the system that dangles this way of working in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sean. And again, raise your hand if you have another comment or question that you want to put forth. I just wanted to comment also on, we also had a little contrast about water rights and the water rights bills in terms of where Troy is versus the other candidate we just had. And the same goes for the issues of homelessness. Kaupuni expressed his feelings and thoughts about dealing with homelessness and what that means. In contrast, we have Troy, who's voted for HB 2607, which was to criminalize and penalize homelessness. So that means instead of supporting them, increasing penalties and fines. And that's one of the things that Troy had voted for. Again, we're just looking at contrast between Kaupuni and also Troy. Bruce, did you have your hand up next?
It's, I mean, we have to realize, Troy was a political appointee. He was appointed by the governor when Joe Suki, got into trouble and withdrew. So he was never voted in. And in order to get that, you have to be very in with the Democratic Party. And the way our system is here, no blame to him, but the way our system is, where we're a one-party state, which in my view makes about as much sense as a communist party, when you have one party running the system, and you have these unelected officials, and the party bosses actually making the decisions in the background and telling people how to vote. So, from my point of view, the most important part is to know, who does somebody work for? Are they working for the people and the INA, or are they working for the big money interests or the big power interests? His unwillingness to show up divide, he obviously was aware of his invitation and totally ignored it. And that doesn't feel well, just to totally ignore something. I do fault the system itself for having a party system where party bosses are dictating how people in the party will vote. And you basically, if you want to get in on the political party, you have to do what they say and follow their rules. And as long as you do as the party bosses say, then you get the party favors, such as getting a political appointment by the governor when somebody falls out. Yes, his voting record and skimming through it, I see he voted for all the non-progressive issues. Obviously, the water theft bill that the people in his district, opposed. The Hawaiian people, the strongest, that he was supposed to be in Wailuku, and that whole district is strongly Hawaiian in roots. And he did not follow his constituency in those type of votes. So that's what I have to say.
Thanks. Who would be next?
Daniel has his hand up.
Daniel.
Okay, aloha. Yes, I agree. It would have been nice that Troy could be here. Let's see. Tommy had mentioned that in a proper democratic sort of way of things, to show up to the table and be willing to face the people in the public. We have really good questions, and I'm sure he has some good answers. Even when it comes to bringing clarity to us, to his district regarding what his voting was all about. Why is it that when the people of his district said no to the water bill, or to support more public use of the water rather than the profit, why is it that he voted for the profit above the health of the land? It's really important that these questions are answered because of the impact that it is having upon the ecosystem. The fact that this fresh water runs into the ocean and has this mixture of fresh water and salt water, it brings an ecology to the area that, when those streams are diverted or even stopped, it has an enormous impact on the water. And I remember when I had first heard that, I had no idea. And to realize just how the natural resources are being sacrificed for the sake of profit, which evermore in these times of COVID and a failing economy, why are these decisions being made? I wish he would be here to answer that question. And perhaps if he is willing in the future to come, perhaps we can accommodate that and let him speak for himself. I think that'd be wonderful. But in the meantime, just looking at the record, I mean, I'll just keep it this way. Like I would love for him to answer those questions. Otherwise, I vote for the fish and not for the big corporations that are stopping those river sources. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Laura, did you have any comments on budgets or donations to Troy? You're on mute, Laura.
Yeah. When I looked at it briefly, it looks like he had a lot of big corporate donors, people who, developers, and so it kind of shows why he's voting the way he is. And I just don't feel good about having someone who is like a puppet in office, where when you speak to them, they're not even, it's like their heads are empty. It just comes through from, they're just being manipulated from all the people behind them. So.
Great, thank you, Laura. And again, I think that when we look at where the monies were coming from in terms of supporting him and his campaign, again, it's no surprise that we're dealing with more big money interest in that respect. So this is part of the decisions that we have to make as informed voters. We have a great opportunity to look at them voting for one of these two candidates at this point in time. By the way, registration for candidates is up to June 2nd. So there still may be additional candidates who might be coming in for this District 8. But if there is, we will have that person then come on also to have a discussion with us about their platform and where they're coming from. If there are no other comments from our group,
let's have Tommy is very Akamai. He's interviewed as part of the Maui Time. Maybe Tommy, you can have any closing comments?
Well, my apologies. I got set up late. I've been just woke up after delivering newspapers all night, I appreciate the format. I think that this I think that the hosting of this is very doable. I think that learning from just what I learned from Kaupuni today works as if we were in person. So this our restrictions due COVID is actually has made kind of a nice platform. I appreciate the work that Bruce and Paul and everyone has done to get this together, and it's well organized, and I think it's a good platform. I'm excited to be able to learn more about and to ask questions of all of our candidates this coming year. I think it's a good setup. I think this could work really well for us. This is it's being able to offer it to the public at the same time, I think, is equally important. So this is a great opportunity, a wonderful forum. I like the ability to be able to bring us in and ask questions and come together over this platform for the democracy side of things. So this is important. I'm glad the tools are available to us.
Great, thank you. Tommy, I agree. This is a great opportunity for us to really engage ourselves in democracy and really become informed about what's happening through all our candidates, so we make the right decisions, especially during this crucial time as we transition from this post-pandemic era and the significant impact that we're facing here on the islands. So again, having the right representation who support the people in the INA is crucial at this point in time. So thank you for listening and for, again, taking in a lot of different types of comments and information so that, again, you can make the right decisions when it comes time to vote. And that'll be coming up pretty soon. I mean, we're talking July 21st when people receive their mail-in ballots for the primaries, and the primaries are key for the state representation, the state representative races. And again, I just wanted to mention that this coming Tuesday, starting at 4 p.m., we will have 3 interviews for District 10. And then on May 7th, we'll start at 5 p.m. and we'll have 2 interviews for District 9. So thank you for listening and, again, and participating in democracy. Mahalo.